Well, all right. So, what should we talk about first? Do we want to? Do we have anything? There's been more and more news that keeps popping up with Jussie Smollett. We could talk a little bit more about that.
Right.
We
Yeah, I
we
mean,
also have a couple
yeah,
of
I think we could talk about a little bit about that, even though there hasn't been a great deal of news, but I think there's some important tidbits to be gleaned, or some important lessons that could be gleaned, particularly those within media and those with a left leaning bent. So for those of you who haven't heard, it turns out that the quote unquote attackers of Jussie Smollett turned out to be two Nigerian brothers who were extras on the show, on the show that Jussie Smollett stars on.
yeah. It's like so.
And I mean, and it goes so far as to that they even did dress rehearsals,
Oh yeah, they
at
were talking.
at the site, and then also the brothers held onto the receipt for the clothesline,
Yeah,
that they used in the supposed attack. I think they're hoping to use that as a write off, because they were doing an acting job. And so it goes into it could be perhaps it could have been written off.
and yeah, and it's completely just the more and more news that's coming out about it, how ridiculous it's how I'm not, the thing is, like, I would say, like, yeah, I'm shocked, but like I'm really not, because this is how this side of the aisle operates. I mean, it's kind of it's victimhood celebration.
No, it totally is.
Well,
And
and I forgot who mentioned this, but it's become a lucrative business now. I mean, we've had it with Colin Kaepernick, and how he's kind of played the victimhood card and made hundreds of millions of dollars off of it through various things.
yeah, various deals,
You have
various endorsement deals. I mean, he just recently settled his lawsuit against the owners of the various teams in the NFL, and so it's and then kind of to bring it back to the Jesse Smollett thing. It's like initially he wanted to be the he was playing the victim, but then especially and then particularly in that interview on Good Morning America, where he tries to spin it and says oh, these guys, they came and punched me, but I can't, I kind of fought them back, and because I'm no punk bitch or whatever. It's like, but then it contradicts what you initially put out as you were a victim, but then now you're somehow the hero because you fought back. What is it? Are you the victim or are you the hero? Because you can't be both things simultaneously.
you can't be the hero victim. That's not a category.
Right, exactly. And then yeah, and it's just goes this entire shift within our culture to now kind of admire victimhood. When I mean because when I was growing up, you never wanted to be the victim. If you got your ass handed to you and you came home with a black eye or a bloody nose, and you tell your mom oh, I just I ran into something. Oh,
Right.
I just took a tumble and landed on my nose and da da da.
Or
You never wanted to admit that you were the victim of something.
or you should see the other guy. It's
Yeah. You never wanted to be someone who was the victim or victimized. I mean, not, within a certain context, of course. And so because victimhood, victimization is not noble. It's not. There's nothing noble about victimhood or victimology. I mean, not saying that people who are victims or victimized shouldn't receive sympathy or compassion, but it's not something to aspire to.
Right. Here's the other disgusting thing about this whole thing too is how the media portrayed it, and they are terribly disappointed that this wasn't real. They're
Of
finally like
course.
they can't hide from it anymore that it's some like real story. So first of all, it's like I shared yesterday with you guys, with you and a bunch of the other guys, kind of a clip from The Simpsons that I felt really portrayed how the media was responding to it, which was
Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
there's the truth and the truth, and
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah. I mean,
and
yeah, because there are so many actual genuine examples of hate crime, and like one that comes to mind was this story. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he was like this kind of aspiring singer or musician, and he gets kidnapped and he gets murdered by four children. And the reason why you probably never heard of it was because the aspiring musician was white, and the four kids that killed him were black.
yeah, I'd never heard about this story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of. I mean, I'm sure if I even try to look it up, like it'll
But
be
see,
buried.
that it speaks exactly to the point. It's like
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Exactly, because like I mean, I only know about it because I saw another alternative news person like bring it up because it actually only was brought to his attention by one of his followers, and so yeah, I mean you have like this you have Jussie Smollett and like the supposed hate crime on one hand, and then you have this actual case of a hate crime, but even if they were to cover it, they would never address it as a hate crime. They would just
no,
call it random an assault or a homicide, because of course you can't commit a hate crime against a white person.
right. Well, like Michael Scott said, it's like, well, I hated it. the and the thing that I think is also really disgusting is how they wanted this thing to be real so bad. They would rather have had it be real so that it create kind of fed into the narrative. But
Mm-hmm.
they're so sad that like it's not real. They wanted him to have been. They wanted. It's not like, woo. Well, thank God that it wasn't. It was fake. That it didn't actually happen. Like, let's celebrate. At least we can, have that bright spot, that celebration that it didn't actually happen. That this, hey, this country is actually a pretty damn good place. We don't have
Right.
these, racist hate, racist crimes. But the fact that they were disappointed that it didn't actually
That's
happen.
right, and it's hilarious because there's a clip of a reporter because like it's funny because like I believe if not all majority of the potential Democratic presidential candidates all like put out a tweet condemning this thing, and I mean particularly like Cory Booker and Kamala Harris.
Oh,
And
Cory
Kamala
Booker
Harris
stuffed his whole
was
fucking ass in his mouth.
yeah, I know. But Kamala Harris was confronted about that tweet, and then she was like, "Oh, well, what tweet?" And because she put out a tweet saying like, "Oh, this is modern day lynching," and
Yeah.
and it shouldn't stand or whatever whatever tired bullshit that she put out. But it's like she wouldn't acknowledge that the reporter specifically mentioned Jussie Smollett. And then she asked her about the tweets, like, "Oh, will you be apologizing? Will you be addressing the matter?" And then she plays dumb and is like, "Oh, well, what tweet? was like obviously she was talking about the tweet talking about Jussie Smollett and like the supposed modern day lynching that was going on. But it was hilarious because like she even starts like stammering, like trying to collect her thoughts, like, well, it's like, oh, you got you, bitch.
Yeah. Well, it's not hard to do because when confronted with the actual truth, like they can't deal with it. It's like instead of saying all they had to do, well, I mean, their base won't take it, but if they just said, hey, you know what, I jumped to conclusions and I got it wrong, I actually might respect that, to be honest.
Right? Yeah, but here's the thing: they can never admit that they were wrong.
Nope.
Yeah, which is stupid because because anyone like it's funny because they think that emission of emission of being wrong or getting or not being correct is weakness or somehow does not will not work to their favor. But it's the complete opposite. It's like if you can admit that you're wrong, then it shows that you are trustworthy, and like when it really matters, it shows that that you are able to pause, self-reflect, and be like, hey, I got this one wrong. I jumped the gun. I'm sorry. I'll do better. And like yeah, and like you were saying, like if they even said that'd be reason to give them the slightest modicum of respect.
Yeah, if any one of them had actually said that, it's like, well, damn, like I don't like them, but I at least have a little bit of that. They gained a little bit of respect in my eyes, but it's not going to happen. Not from the media, not from the politicians on the left. None of it.
Right, and it was it was hilarious because there was like a compilation of uh, clips where they're they're constantly talking about it, and then there was another like compilation of clips where they were saying that the media was trying to bury the story and not talking about it. It's like, bitch, what are you like? What news programs are you watching?
Yeah, they're gonna report on it in like page Z46. It's kind of.
But no. I mean, like initially when it first happened, like that's all
yeah.
that's all they were talking about. But then there was another like kind of within like the same time frame where other people were claiming that the news was burying the story or not talking about it enough.
Oh my god.
And it's like what news outlet? I mean, what news outlet is not talking about it? I mean, even Fox is talking about it. I mean, they're taking on a more I think critical or skeptical stance, but they're still talking about it. They may not be covering it in the way that you want, but they're still talking about it. So like what news outlet, what news agency is not talking about it? Everyone was talking about it. I mean, shoot, we're talking about it right now.
I think this is the third time that we've talked about this damn story.
Right? Yeah. But I mean,
And
light at the end of the tunnel. I heard. I mean, I think there are rumors that they're going to get the grand jury involved and maybe indict Jussie Smollett for making false claims, wasting government resources. And I heard like the police are like really pissed at him.
yeah, I would be too. And honestly, I want them to throw the book at him because we need to start holding these people accountable for this bullshit and stop rewarding them for this shit.
Right? Yeah. No more. Yeah. No more. Just like sweeping it under the rug. But yeah, like because what it does also is it takes resources away from actual crimes. Because I think I heard that's what the police were most pissed about because it's like you took us off of things that needed that really needed our attention, that really needed our resources.
Right.
To waste on your bullshit. But then also like kind of culturally, what it does is that it all it does is it makes everyday people more callous or jaded about when people come out, who were actually victims of discrimination or hate crime. Although I hate using that word because I find it redundant. But
Right.
like yeah, for people who are genuinely victims of hate crimes or racially motivated attacks, it just makes everyday people just like jaded. It's like, yeah, sure you were, buddy, sure you were, and then
Well, it's the boy who cried wolf syndrome. That's what
exactly,
it is.
exactly,
And the only people that get power from that are the people that actually do this shit and commit these crimes
right, and
because
then they
they
get
get
away,
away with
yeah,
it more
because they get
because no one's
away with it, yeah, because they just end up getting away with it. But yeah, but hopefully, hopefully there are some repercussions for Jussie Smollett, and and I hope that I hope this becomes like a landmark case. The kind of the case that like other people who get the idea, to do something similar will think like, oh, like I don't want to get Smolletted.
Yeah, I really do hope that that's the case. Like, I'm not like one that necessarily calls like we need to boycott these people and blah blah blah, and we need to. It's like, or he needs to lose his job, blah, and all that stuff. It's like, but this is an actual crime. We need to stop rewarding this type of stuff because, as I said, this actually has consequences for other people. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just because he said something controversial or he did something stupid or or said something insensitive or whatever, and like people shouldn't lose their job for that.
Right.
This though, this who knows, like because all the time spent by the police officers in Chicago when they could have been maybe solving a real case or something that was, or spending resources on a another case that needed their time and attention, that's now maybe go unsolved because of this crap. And now it's and possibly letting someone who was a real perpetrator of these type of crimes actually get away because of this shit.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I believe he deserves to go to jail
Ditto.
or fined so heavily where it hurts.
Yeah, like make it like a real like cost like to him, like to the point where like he's still having to pay for it, like maybe like 5 to 10 years down the line.
Right.
Like I
It's
mean that's
just
yeah, that's how much it should hurt. Because I mean, as much as like people who avoid who avoid their taxes or whatever, and they have to like pay for like a good like 10 to like 20 years, off of their paychecks, something similar.
yeah. It's those are my thoughts on this. And it just honestly, I maybe it's a little bit of Schadenfreude, but
Mm-hmm.
I get so happy every time I see more news that comes out about this, and it's just like it
Yeah,
just keeps
I mean, hey,
unraveling. And it's so
me. I'm the when it comes to Schadenfreude, I'm right there in the front. I'm right there in
yeah.
the front.
If there's a face to Schadenfreude, it's definitely you, Andy.
That's right.